time capsules, or forgotten places. Imagine driving through the Australian outback. Suddenly you turn off, and the road takes you into another time. The petrol station still has the old round pumps. The milk bar sells lamingtons in the same glass cabinets as 60 years ago. The bank still has its original 1960s facade, and nobody seems in any hurry to change anything. Are these places living museums preserving a better time? Or are they communities that progress forgot? While Sydney and Melbourne race into the future, there are dozens of small Australian towns stuck somewhere between 1960 and 1975. Some by nostalgia, some by necessity, some because the world simply moved on and left them behind. Today at Australian Places, we analyse without false hometown pride which Australian locations truly feel like the 60s, what they've lost, what they've preserved, and whether clinging to the past is a virtue or a curse. Welcome to an honest assessment. We've listened to your feedback. Today, we look realistically at Australia's forgotten time capsules. If you appreciate analysis that combines nostalgia with hard facts, then subscribe now to our channel and activate the bell. A like supports our independent work. Let's dive deep into the matter. Lightning Ridge, New South Wales. Why opals have frozen time. To understand why some places got stuck in the 60s, we begin with Lightning Ridge. This opal mining town in northwestern New South Wales looks like someone pressed pause in 1968. The main street still shows the same facades, the same faded colours, the same atmosphere of a time that should have long passed. The bowling club has its original interior with green velvet curtains and formica tables worn smooth by decades of use. The opal mines work with the same methods as 60 years ago, the same manual techniques, the same patient search for the perfect gemstone. The old shops still carry their hand-painted signs from that era, paint cracked and faded, but still readable. The Diggers Rest Motel could come straight from a 1965 film, with its low concrete buildings and characteristic metal doors. The post office serves customers through the same counters that have stood there since the 60s, with the same wooden frames and the same squeaking hinges. Even the street lighting dates from this time. Simple concrete poles with yellow sodium vapor lamps casting the streets in warm, nostalgic light. Why? Because opal mining is an industry that rejects change. The miners who work here value the independence and rugged individualism of the 60s. We must be honest here. Lightning Ridge is poor. Average household income lies far below the national average. But the community has preserved something modern cities have lost: genuine community and complete freedom from commercial homogeneity. The population sits at about 2,500 people, most of whom have lived here for decades. People here know each other by name, know each other's families and histories. Neighbours help one another without asking, without expectation of repayment. The social fabric functions like in an earlier, better era, when community meant something real and tangible. But this authenticity comes at a real price. Our young people leave the town because there are no jobs outside the mines, no careers, no futures beyond digging for opals. Infrastructure is deteriorating at an alarming rate. The school struggles desperately for students. Here, Lightning Ridge deserves genuine praise for its character, but we must also criticise honestly. Without investment, this place will not survive. Coober Pedy, South Australia. Why the desert refuses modernisation? 1,500 kilometres west lies Coober Pedy, and here the same pattern shows itself even more extremely. This South Australian opal town lives literally underground, a bizarre network of tunnels and caves protecting from the murderous desert heat. The dugout houses built in the 60s remain the main form of housing, hollowed caves in soft sandstone with surprisingly comfortable interiors. The above-ground shops look like film sets from Mad Max because they were actually used for Mad Max. a post-apocalyptic aesthetic that here is entirely real. The town has barely changed since the 60s, as if time passed especially slowly here. The Desert Cave Hotel lobby sits in the same hollowed caves, walls raw and unpainted, atmosphere cool and otherworldly. The underground churches show the same hand-carved altars, religious artworks chiseled directly into the rock. Even the opal sales shops have kept their original wooden and glass display cases installed in the 60s, dusty and slightly crooked, but still functional. The architecture is utilitarian and brutal. Corrugated iron roofs, concrete walls, no decoration, no beautification, just naked functionality. Heat and isolation have made modernization impossible. It's simply too expensive to build contemporary architecture in a desert where temperatures regularly reach 50 degrees. This isn't a conscious decision for retro aesthetics. This is economic realism. The unvarnished reality is that Coober Pedy has kept its 60s identity because it can't afford anything else. The population of under 2,000 people lives in one of Australia's most inhospitable environments. But we must say fairly, tourists love it precisely because of this. Coober Pedy has made its poverty into a brand. Busloads of visitors stream here to experience the authentic outback experience. This works short term, but long term this community needs genuine economic diversification. Wyndham, Western Australia, where the boom never arrived. When speaking of forgotten places, we must mention Wyndham, as this small port town in the far north of Western Australia had its heyday in the 60s as a beef export port, when thousands of cattle were driven through the streets and the meatworks operated day and night. Then came the decline, sudden and brutal. The meat industry moved to Darwin and Broome. The population shrank from over 2,000 to under 600, a painful exodus that bled the town dry. What remained is a town literally frozen in time, a living monument to failed hopes. The old meatworks still stands, a rusty monument of corrugated iron and concrete, windows broken, machinery silenced. The cold storage buildings are empty, but the architecture remains unchanged. Massive concrete structures built to last forever. The pubs still have their original 60s interiors, linoleum floors that stick under your feet, and formica bars with cigarette burn marks, handwritten price boards behind the counter that haven't been updated in decades. The architecture is typical of this era. Simple concrete block buildings with corrugated iron roofs, built to withstand tropical heat and cyclonic winds, not to look beautiful or impress visitors. Function over form was the 60s mantra in remote Australia. The houses stand on stilts because of seasonal flooding from the monsoon rains that turn the landscape into a temporary sea. Colours have faded under the relentless northern sun to pastels of green, yellow and pink. Paint peeling in long strips like skin after sunburn. Nobody invested because there seemed no future. Because when the meatworks closed, hope closed with it. The main street feels ghostly, and especially in the heat of midday when even the birds fall silent. Shops that flourished in the 60s serving workers with good wages now stand empty, windows boarded up or broken. But the signs still hang, faded advertisements for products that no longer exist. Old petrol pumps stand abandoned in front of closed service stations, rusted monuments to a more prosperous time. Yet Wyndham also shows something genuinely hopeful. Small communities survive through adaptation, through reinvention, through refusing to die quietly. Tourism is beginning to grow. Art galleries are opening in the old buildings. Aboriginal culture is being celebrated. Wyndham proves a town can forge a new identity from its past without betraying its history. Ravensthorpe, Western Australia. Why the mining cycle stops time. Ravensthorpe in Western Australia is a perfect example of the boom and bust cycle that freezes places in time. In the 60s, it was a flourishing copper mining town. Then the mines closed. For decades, nothing happened. The town remained stuck in the 60s because nobody had reason to change anything. The hotels, the shops, even the street lamps date from this era. Then came a 2008 nickel boom. Suddenly, people streamed back. But interestingly, Ravensthorpe kept its 60s character. Why? Because the residents valued it. They didn't want modern development. They wanted their quiet, old-fashioned community back. This deserves praise. Ravensthorpe has proven that economic growth doesn't mean abandoning your identity. But we must also criticize. Dependence on mining means this town will always be vulnerable to the next bust. Silverton, New South Wales. Where Hollywood preserved the 60s. Silverton is a fascinating case, a place whose survival depends on its own past. This former silver mining town, west of Broken Hill, has only 50 permanent residents, but it's world famous because it's been used in dozens of films. A popular set for directors who need authentic outback atmosphere. Mad Max 2, A Town Like Alice, Razorback, The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Mission Impossible 2. Hollywood loved Silverton because it looked perfect. Unchanged since the 60s, unfaked, real. The irony is that this film industry has actually frozen Silverton in time, a strange cycle of preservation. And nobody wants to modernize the buildings because then they wouldn't function as film sets anymore. And film crews pay well for this authenticity. The old Silverton Hotel, with its characteristic veranda, is the centerpiece, an iconic building that has appeared in countless scenes. The bar inside looks like 1965. Dark wood, old photos on the walls showing faces of long-dead miners, beer coasters from long-vanished breweries. The post office, the church, the old shops along the main street. Everything must stay as it was, frozen in amber like prehistoric insects. Film crews pay handsomely for nothing to change, for authenticity to remain untouched by modern sensibilities. Residents have learned to operate their town as a living museum, a business model built on deliberate stagnation. The artists who live here are mostly painters and sculptors who move from cities seeking solitude, sell paintings and photographs of scenes that haven't changed in 50 years, images of a town that looks exactly like it did when their grandparents might have visited. This isn't natural preservation. This is commercial mummification, the calculated decision to remain frozen because change would destroy the business model. We must be honest, Silverton is more museum than living community, more theme park than functioning town. But it works financially. Tourists stream in, thousands per year from across Australia and the world, to walk through the same streets they saw in films, to drink in the same pub where Mad Max drank, to photograph themselves against backdrops that cinema made iconic. The local economy survives through nostalgia. This is neither good nor bad. See, it's simply an economic strategy born from necessity. Dunolly, Victoria. Why gold rush? Dreams never die. Dunolly in Victoria is another gold mining town that took its modern form in the 60s and never moved beyond. The 19th century gold rush was long over, but in the 60s, there were still enough small mining operations to keep the town alive. What you see today is a perfectly preserved 60s country town. The main street could come straight from an Australian film of that era. The Broadway Hotel has kept its original facade. Shops still show hand-painted signs on wooden boards. The old general store sells from the same wooden shelves installed 60 years ago. The pubs, the churches, even the community facilities date from this time. Street lamps are simple concrete poles. Footpaths still show the original concrete slabs with stamps from 60s construction firms. The problem? Dunolly struggles with unemployment and population decline. The population of 800 is aging. The young generation sees no future in a town so deeply anchored in the past. No opportunities beyond service jobs, catering to tourists. The school has difficulty finding enough students as young families move to Bendigo or Ballarat. But Dunolly is doing something genuinely right. It has made its history into a marketable brand. Annual Gold Rush festivals attract thousands of visitors. The community organises treasure hunts, historical tours, gold panning experiences for tourists hoping to strike it rich. The community has understood that their 60s aesthetic is an asset, not a handicap. This deserves recognition. Menzies, Western Australia, the ultimate ghost town experience. If you really want to see what an Australian town looked like in the 60s, visit Menzies. This former gold town in Western Australia once had 7,000 residents, a flourishing community with hotels, banks, shops, even a hospital. Today, there are under 100 mostly elderly people who refuse to leave. What remains is a perfectly preserved time capsule, a place simultaneously fascinating and depressing. The main street shows buildings from different eras, but the dominant aesthetic is the 60s, the last time real investment happened here. That was the last era when genuine life still existed here, when hope for a new boom hadn't yet died. Since then, time has stood still, not by choice, but by neglect, through the slow bleeding out of a community. The old service stations, post offices, shops, everything still stands because nobody had reason to tear them down, but also nobody had reason to maintain them. This is the unvarnished reality. Menzies isn't picturesque. It's tragic, a community struggling. But for historians and photographers, it's priceless. Nowhere else can you see so authentically what rural Australia in the 60s truly looked like. The abandoned shops, with their dusty windows, tell stories of a time that will never return. Oodnadatta, South Australia, where the Garn line defined time. Oodnadatta in South Australia is closely tied to the old Garn railway line. In the 60s, this was an important supply point on the route to Alice Springs. Then in 1980, a new route was built that bypassed Oodnadatta. The town lost its main source of income and remained frozen in time. What you see today is a community that never overcame its railway era. The old station building still stands. The settlement is organised around railway infrastructure. The houses, the shops, everything dates from the heyday of the Garn line. The population of under 300 people holds on to these memories. Oodnadatta is considered Australia's hottest town, but Oodnadatta has also preserved something remarkable: genuine outback culture. The pub atmosphere is authentic. Community cohesion is strong. This isn't a nostalgia show for tourists. This is real life that happens to be stuck in another time. Wittenoom, Western Australia, the town that should have died. Wittenoom is the darkest entry on this list, a town that became a warning. This asbestos mining town in the Pilbara region was officially closed in the 60s because asbestos contamination was deadly, because the blue asbestos fibres mined here proved to be one of the world's most dangerous substances. The government desperately tried to relocate all residents, offered compensation, offered new houses. But some stubbornly refused to go, disgusted by bureaucracy, convinced the danger was exaggerated. Today, fewer than 10 people live there in an officially non-existent town, outcasts in a forbidden land. Wittenoom is frozen in the 60s because it's been abandoned since the 60s, a town the government wanted to erase from maps. Houses stand empty, windows broken by vandals and wind, roofs collapsed under the weight of years. Shops are sealed, but signs still hang crooked on facades, and faded names of stores nobody remembers. The old service station still shows 1966 prices, a macabre detail in a dead town. Streets have been struck from government maps. There's no official postcode anymore, no services, no water supply. But the physical infrastructure remains, a ghostly monument to the mining era. Blue asbestos fibres still glitter in the dust. Mines are open, unfenced, deadly. The government has posted warning signs everywhere, but some tourists still come, searching for abandoned places. They photograph the empty streets, the decaying houses, the rusting cars that haven't moved since the 60s. We must be honest here. Wittenoom is not a nostalgic place. It's a warning, a community sacrificed for profit. Over 2,000 former residents and workers have died from mesothelioma, asbestos cancer. And yet it shows in frightening ways what a town looked like before modern safety standards existed. A museum of negligence, Birdsville, Queensland, where isolation keeps modernity away. Birdsville in Queensland is so remote that modernisation would simply be too expensive. This tiny desert town on the edge of the Simpson Desert has only 120 residents, but it's famous for its isolation and its 60s aesthetic. The legendary Birdsville Hotel dates from the 19th century, but its modern form and fittings date from the 60s. The service station, visitor centre, police station, everything feels from another era. This isn't conscious preservation. This is geographical determinism. When the next larger town is 700 kilometres away, there's no incentive for development. But Birdsville also shows that isolation can be a blessing. The annual Birdsville races attract over 6,000 visitors, seeking exactly this time capsule atmosphere. The town has made its remoteness into a brand. This is strategic thinking. Burra, South Australia, where copper-shaped architecture. Burra in South Australia is a former copper mining town that has equally preserved its Victorian and 60s architecture. In the 60s, the town experienced a small renaissance when heritage preservation became popular. The community consciously decided to protect its historic buildings. The result is a town that looks like it stopped in the 60s because that was exactly the moment it decided not to continue. Hotels, shops, residences, everything was preserved, not through neglect, but through cultural decision. So here Burra deserves praise. They understood their past is their greatest asset. Tourism flourishes. The community is stable. This is an example of how you can be stuck in time and still have a living future. But we must also criticize, Burra is economically dependent on nostalgia tourism. If this market collapses, then what? Meekatharra, Western Australia, where the gold rush never quite ended. Our final stop is Meekatharra in Western Australia. This gold mining town never stopped existing, but it also never moved beyond the 60s. The main street shows a perfect mix of Victorian architecture and 60s modernisation. The community of under 1,000 people still lives from mining. Mines open and close in the cycle of commodity prices. When gold rises, the town blooms. When it falls, it shrinks. So this cycle has prevented Meekatharra from developing. Why invest in new buildings when the next bust could leave them empty? This is economic pragmatism, not romantic nostalgia. Meekatharra is stuck in the 60s because economic uncertainty made any other option impossible. This is the hard reality of many rural Australian communities. In summary, these 12 towns are stuck in the 60s for different reasons: economic collapse, geographical isolation, conscious preservation, commercial necessity, or simply because the world moved on and left them behind in an era that seems forever past. This isn't weakness, but a complex phenomenon telling Australia's regional history, a story of boom and bust, of hope and disappointment. These places have proven you don't need to be modern to be relevant, that you don't need to follow the latest trend to have meaning. Their 60s aesthetic has become their defining feature, their identity, their asset. Yet this preservation only works if we invest in infrastructure and help communities achieve economic diversification, if we respect their past but don't forget their future. We must stop forgetting these towns and start treating their unique identity as a national treasure, as living examples of an era that otherwise exists only in photographs. But what do you think? Is preserving 60s aesthetics a clever heritage strategy, or does it condemn these communities to slow death? Should Australia invest more in regional development or accept the natural evolution of these small places? Write your opinion in the comments. We appreciate thoughtful discussion in our community and look forward to your perspectives. Don't forget to rate the video and subscribe to Australian Places so you don't miss any honest analyses of Australian locations. We bring you new insights into Australia's forgotten corners every week. Thank you for watching. Stay curious. Until next time.